Welcome back to On Campus Sports. We're doing the upset picks now and the big games of the week. We're going to start off with Wisconsin versus BYU. Simply, I'm going to go with Wisconsin just because it's at home. I think it's going to be a very close game. BYU's for real, but I am going to go with the Badgers.
Yeah, I'm going to go with BYU, and this will be my biggest upset pick of the week. I think that Taysom Hill has just shown over the last few weeks how truly dynamic he is and how much of a playmaker. And I don't see on the Wisconsin offensive side of the ball necessarily the X factor player. They're well-rounded, they have a good rushing attack, and they are at home. But that X factor player in Taysom Hill is the difference maker. And then also Texas and Wisconsin, I think, would be comparable teams. And you saw what BYU did to Texas and Provo.
I agree with you with BYU. They do have a good defense, and Taysom Hill is the X factor. He's one of the most dynamic players in the country. But it's in Camp Randall. I'm taking the Badgers over the Cougars.
Houston and UCF. This is going to be fun. Houston's a very quiet 7-1. They came very close to beating BYU, actually. UCF has a good track record this year. They've beat some good teams. I'm going to go with the Knights just because it's in Orlando, so I'm going to pick them.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think Broyles, I think he's a solid quarterback, very reliable, and in this game it can be the difference. Houston's been impressive this year, but I think UCF's record's a little bit more reflective of how solid they are as a team. They have better wins, and so I think they have the edge in this one.
UCF is now my pick to win the American Conference. They should run the table, beating Louisville at Louisville. They have Houston, but I'm taking the Scarlet Knights as well. No, I mean the Knights as well.
Pittsburgh versus Notre Dame. Pittsburgh couldn't get it done last year when they had a chance to ruin Notre Dame's chances at a BCS title game. This year they have a chance to ruin their chances at a BCS game in general. This is going to be my upset pick because it's in Pittsburgh. I'm going with Pittsburgh over Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's a good pick, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I think that last year they weren't necessarily ready for Pittsburgh, which is surprising because they're a traditional rivalry. But I think they'll look back to last year and say, look, this is what these guys did to us. We need to fix this, and I see Notre Dame winning.
Notre Dame is running the ball really well. Reese has great arm talent. I'm picking the Fighting Irish over the Pitt Panthers.
Penn State versus Minnesota now. Minnesota has a chance for the first time in, I believe, 6 or 7 years to get ranked if they win this game. And I think that would be a huge step forward with what has happened with Jerry Kill. I'm going to go with the Golden Gophers to beat Penn State.
I agree. Golden Gophers, I think they're the better team. I think they'll finally capitalize on being the better team.
The Golden Gophers are playing very inspired. They've been playing very inspired this whole entire season. I'm taking the Golden Gophers as well over Penn State.
We're in the upset alerts now. We're going to start off with Auburn versus Tennessee. Auburn could get into trouble if they overlook Tennessee because we know Tennessee is competitive, but they kind of go like a roller coaster. They show up when they want to. It's in Knoxville, which is somewhat dangerous. If Auburn does not overlook them, they'll be fine. I'm going to go with the Tigers, but I would not be surprised if Tennessee clips them.
Yeah, it seems like every week we're talking about Tennessee as a potential upset pick, and that's why I'm going with Auburn, actually. I think that Tennessee showed enough that they deserve to be respected coming into the game, so they don't have that surprise factor. And not that a rivalry game like South Carolina and Tennessee is taken lightly, but I think that they had a little bit more of a surprise factor in that game, or same with Georgia. And I think Auburn's going to be ready, use their effective run game,
and to go with what you said about Tennessee, it's not a lot of teams. Tennessee is not a surprise factor now because people are expecting Tennessee to play tough. Yes, in Knoxville, it's going to be a tough place to play. It is a tough place to play. But what Auburn has shown throughout this season, they can go on the road and beat you. They went into the 12th man. They beat Texas A&M. I see them going into Tennessee Stadium as well, Knoxville, Netland Stadium, and beating Tennessee is also, and moving forward, getting ready for Alabama in the future.
ASU versus Utah. This is going to be tough because Utah is 4-4. But they can prove another statement because they have beat some decent teams, BYU and Stanford included in those teams, which is not good for Stanford as of right now, but it could help if they beat Arizona State. I'm going to go with the Sun Devils. They have been playing very well. Taylor Kelly looked excellent against Washington State. If he can keep that up, they're going to be very hard to beat. So I'm going to go with the Sun Devils, but it will be tough because it's in Utah.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I'm still wondering how Utah beat Stanford. I mean, congrats to Utah. But I think ASU is the better team, better quarterback play, and they seem to be on a roll right now. I think they've scored over 50 points in like 3 of their last 4 games. So I'm going with ASU.
This is actually my upset pick of the week. I'm taking Utah over Arizona State. Arizona State is playing very well, high potent offense, pretty good defense also, especially their front 7. But it's in Utah, and it's tough to beat Utah at home. I don't think it was any fluke that they beat Stanford at home. So I'm taking Utah.
Vatech versus Miami. Miami's in trouble because I know they're deflated after last week, especially the way they got beat.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech's not a team you want to sleep on. They're not the team we're accustomed to over the last few years. As of recently, they've kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit. They're still 6-3. If Miami doesn't show up to this game, they'll be in trouble. I am going to go with the Hurricanes. But Virginia Tech needs a statement win this year because they thought they were there at 6-1. They got back in the rankings up to number 14.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really have a statement win, and now they're starting to drop off a little bit. If they beat Miami, they could make a statement. But like I said, I'm going to stay with the Hurricanes.
Yeah, this is going to be a competitive game. I think it will come down to turnovers. If Morris can hold on to the ball, I think the Hurricanes will come away with this win. And being an upperclassman, I think that he's going to hold on to the ball this game. I have confidence in Morris, and I'm going to agree with you, take the Hurricanes.
I'm taking Miami as well. I just believe Virginia Tech is in a rebuilding mode this whole entire year, losing to Duke. To Duke's defense, they are a bowl championship team, eligible team. And I'm picking the Hurricanes. I look for Miami to bounce back after that loss last week to Florida State and keep it rolling.
UCLA and Arizona now. Arizona's quietly dangerous. I believe they're sitting at 7-2. Nobody talks about them at all in the Pac-12. It's become a pretty hard place to win at. I'm actually going to stay with the Wildcats. I'm picking the Wildcats to beat UCLA. UCLA needs to prove to me that they can beat a tough opponent. They dropped to Stanford. They dropped to Oregon. I'm going to stick with the Wildcats, but I do think UCLA can kind of make a statement if they do beat Arizona pretty handedly at 7-2.
Yeah, Rich Rodriguez has this run game for the Wildcats off the charts. So last year, their running back led the FBS in rush yards per carry. This year, up to this point, he is. And they have a really effective run game. But I'm going to go with UCLA because I think UCLA is better as a complete team. The rush advantage is one for Arizona, but Hundley as a playmaker, I look to him, and I just think UCLA is a little more well-rounded, so I'm going with the Bruins.
I'm taking the Bruins as well. Like you said, with Hundley, I think Hundley is one of the top dual-threat quarterbacks in the country. So I look for UCLA to go into Arizona, beat Arizona, and UCLA does have a top 5 pick, in my opinion, Anthony Barr coming off the edge. So I look for UCLA to win that game.
All right, America, it's the biggest game of the week, the one everybody's talking about, and the biggest upset of the week. It's going to be LSU versus Alabama. I'm going to go with Alabama.
Okay.
I know people want to see LSU knock them off to get somebody else different in there besides the SEC. I don't think it's going to be LSU. I'm going to stick with Auburn, so I'm going to stay with the Crimson Tide for this pick. But Mettenberger, he surprised a lot of people this year. He's become a pretty good NFL prospect. They're putting up a lot of points. And as we know, Alabama, with teams that can score a lot of points and have a good O-line, which LSU does, they let them score a lot of points. The only team we saw that with was Texas A&M. They scored 42 points. So I'm expecting this to be a shootout because Alabama, when they need to, they can score points in bunches, 40, even 50 points a game. So I'm going to stick with the Crimson Tide to win this game in a close one.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Alabama as well. I think if you look to this, what's going to determine this game, it's going to be the fronts. It's specifically the LSU front versus the Alabama defensive line. And so if they can get pressure on Mettenberger, he's not a very mobile quarterback. That will help the Alabama secondary. And then I think this game could be more of a blowout potentially if there's pressure on the quarterback. But remember, Mettenberger's coming out game of sorts last year was against Alabama. So it should be an interesting game, but I'm going to go with the Crimson Tide.
I'm taking LSU. When these two meet, it's always national title implications, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm taking Mettenberger at quarterback, the offensive line at running game. I think Alabama's pass rush has been a little suspect throughout the year. And with the two dynamic receivers LSU has, I think LSU moves the ball down the field at will, in my opinion, in Tuscaloosa. And no matter if this game is in Tuscaloosa or in New Orleans, it's always a fun game to watch.
Yeah.
So I'm picking LSU.
Next week, we will be talking about basketball. The season starts this week. Boise State will play tonight against University of Texas Arlington. So we'll start doing football and basketball, NCAA next week. Thank you for joining us this week for On Campus Sports College Talk. I'm host Tyler Abner, joined by co-host Brandon Fudge and Rashad Stribling. See you guys next week. What's wrong?
Stuttered.